my kingdom. Had to buy some harmony. Now I'm flexing with my jewels. You can tell I got a lot on me. Grab another hero, feeling like I hit the lottery. Farming, getting API, stacking profits to the sky. 1x, 2.
What is going on, Inner Grove? Welcome to the stream. I am Baby Punch. Got Sandwich Punch here. We are going to be going over some DFK advance tips for all new Avax players. So welcome everyone. If you guys are new to the stream, be sure to hit the like and subscribe, follow the channel. You can follow us on social media, Twitter. We post a lot of our streams there and when we go live. So be sure to follow us there and you'll get all our alerts. So we've got a sponsor for our show. We've got Pocket Network. They've been our sponsor in the past. So if you guys don't know who sponsor is or who Pocket is, they run, let's see right here. So they're a decentralized network of nodes. So they provide RPC protocols to blockchains. So they're one of the most popular on the Harmony blockchain right now. And they will be the dedicated RPC provider for DFK Chain. So just wanted to love having them as a sponsor. We will have links to download their RPC in the show notes. So be sure to catch them there and you'll be able to get the links there. So we've got a stream. We're going to run through a lot of tips for Avax players. So we did a kind of a beginner's guide, and we're going to run through a few more advanced, what you can do to really be prepared if you've maybe been in the game or, what you've been through the basic steps. What more do we want to get into? So Sandwich Punch, why don't you start us off here?
Yeah, thanks, man. So guys, again, check out the first linked video down below. That's our beginner's guide that Baby Punch just mentioned. It was a kind of a comprehensive beginner's guide geared for their new Avalanche community members who are just hearing about DeFi Kingdoms. It gives you a very high level overview of what you can currently do in the game and how to do some of those things. This guide goes one more step past that, and we're going to be going into some more advanced tips and a lot of tools that you can currently use to help you with various things that we're doing, whether it's farming, summoning, or flipping heroes, or questing. There's some cool stuff out there. So let's first get into one thing we wanted to talk about, which is, so you're a player on Avalanche and you're thinking, okay, Crystalvale will be launching on DFK Chain. It's a separate chain, right? It's a subnet. So you've got your money, you've got some Avax, you've got some spare funds. Maybe you're a whale from Krabata and you're just looking to get into the next project. So what do? Should you go over to Serendale? So, and again, Serendale is, let me share my screen here. It's the Harmony, it's the realm that's on Harmony. This is the current Serendale map. So should you be heading over here? Is there things you can be doing in the meantime? Or should you just be waiting for Crystalvale? So one thing I think is that you should head over to Serendale. There's a lot of benefits, and one of them especially is that you have to remember how the roadmap in DeFi Kingdoms works. We talked about this a little bit in our last video, and I'm going to share the roadmap. But the roadmap starts with the launch of a bank, gardens, and a marketplace. Those are really the DeFi, that's the DeFi protocol. You have a bank, which is really called the jeweler now, gardens, which are yield farming, and a marketplace, which is the DEX. That is the only thing that's going to be available on Crystalvale for some time until they release the Crystalvale Gen Zeros, which is kind of like the phase 2, and the portal, which is all the summoning. So you're gonna, if you want to get into some of those other things, you might as well jump over to Serendale and get started figuring out how heroes work, because you'll have a head start when it comes time to Crystalvale and those things are released. But let's take one more step back. The first thing launching will be the jeweler, the gardens, and the marketplace over in Crystalvale. So one thing that's really important is like, okay, so we know that the first pool is going to be a jewel and X jewel pairing. And anybody who's followed DeFi Kingdoms knows that the very first pools were very lucrative. There's just a lot of money to be made. The emissions are very high compared to where they are now. And I know a lot of people are very excited to start earning crystal in the Crystalvale Gardens. And that first pairing is Jewel and X Jewel. So we really wanted to hit on this. This is very important. For people in Serendale, we've had videos. My Twitter's posted about this. Dreamer has given us a lot of details. It's going to be very simple. People are going to have their money in the jeweler over here, and they're just going to say, hey, I have jeweler, money in the jeweler, or jewel in the jeweler, which is X jewel. I'm just going to take half of that out. So now I have half of it in jewel, half of it in X jewel, and I'm going to bridge both those over to DFK chain. Super easy. But what happens for people who are on Avalanche and they don't have X jewel, or heck, they may not even have jewel? You don't have very many options right now. So if you're on Avalanche C chain, I was looking at it. I went over to Pangolin Swap, which I believe is the only chain or the only DEX right now that has much liquidity at all. And there's only $1 million worth of TVL there. To give you a sense of how different that is, come look at some of these gardens over in Serendale. There's 12 million in the Matic pool, 14 billion in the 14 million in the BNB pool, 17 in the BUSD pool. There's just so much more liquidity. You have 1 million in the pool over on Avalanche. So if you want to get Jewel and head over to Crystalvale as soon as DFK chain launches, you're like, okay, I've got my Avax. What do I do? I mean, you can buy some bridge Jewel here on Pangolin Swap and then bridge that over to DFK chain. But there's not a ton of liquidity. So if there's a ton of people out there that are wanting to do that, you're going to hit some pretty heavy price impact. The other big glaring issue there is you don't have a way to get X Jewel. The only way to get X Jewel right now is you go to the jeweler in Serendale, you deposit some Jewel with them, and it turns it into X Jewel. That's another ERC20 token. Everyone on Serendale Harmony right now is just going to bridge it over. How are you going to get that if you're on Avalanche? And if you don't want to come to Serendale, you'll have to wait until that pairing goes live on Crystalvale, at which point you'll be able to swap some of your bridged Jewel for X Jewel. And again, you have to deal with all the price impact that entails as well. So I think one glaring, reason to get into Serendale now is to just go ahead and get your Jewel and X Jewel lined up. Then you don't have to worry about all of that. So wanted to make sure that was very clear to people. There's a couple other things that we wanted to get into, maybe some tiers like, okay, if I have $1,000, what am I doing? If I have $5,000, what am I doing? Before that, I just wanted to highlight a couple more issues, or not even issues, but a couple more items. Just remember this roadmap. Everything that happens on the roadmap happens first in Serendale, and then it gets released later in Crystalvale, and subsequent expansions will just be even a step behind Crystalvale. So if what's going to happen is you've already got people in Serendale who are chomping at the bit for more features, more utility, more releases. It's going to be even further behind for Crystalvale. It will release at a faster cadence, but you're going to be able to come over and start getting things like miners, heroes, and we'll get into details on like why would that be a good idea. But you're going to be able to start taking advantage of the hero market before it even launches on Crystalvale, because you'll be able to bridge your heroes over to Crystalvale and use them there. And so you could already start leveling them up. So there's a lot of benefits to getting familiar with Serendale right now. And even if you're just a yield farmer, go back, rewind it a few minutes and look at what we just said about X Jewel and Jewel and how you're even going to be able to get it if you don't go to Serendale. It's a huge reason alone to start bridging some money over right now, in my opinion, and getting ready for the launch. So with that being said, let's go to the next topic. Baby Punch, I know you and I were talking about this a little bit. So what would you be doing if you had, you're sitting, and this could apply if you're on Serendale or Harmony or Avalanche. What would you do if you had, $500, $5,000,
Yeah.
10, 25? Like what would be your approach here in light of Crystalvale?
Okay, so we're gonna have all different layers and tiers of new people coming into the game. So if I were a new player and I did not have a ton of spare cash, I've sold some of the stuff on the side, and now I've got $500 or $1,000. Honestly, anywhere up to even $5,000. What I would recommend not financial advice, but what I would do if I was in that spot is I would first jump into Serendale, just as Sandwich Punch had said, stake it for X Jewel, and then when the DFK chain launches, you're going to swap half of it to Jewel. You're going to bridge it over to Crystalvale, and so you're just going to stay in the pool. You're just going to stay in the Jewel X Jewel pool, and you are going to compound as often as you can. And the reason that is because so when you compound, you're essentially locking up 95% of your rewards, and that'll kind of scale down as weeks go by. But so it'll go from 95 to 93 and then 91. And so, anyways, you're locking up your rewards for the long term. However, you're compounding. And we had some friends that did not take that approach, and they put in more money at the beginning than we did, and we significantly have a larger bag of locked jewel than they did just because we compounded. And so don't underestimate the effects of compounding interest, especially if if $500 isn't much to you and it's like, I can play with this. Honestly, money that you have in crypto should be money that you're not hurting if you end up losing it, because it's super high risk, high volatility. So if that is the case, man, just compound it. Just compound it as often and as frequent as you can. Honestly, multiple times a day if you can. Don't make it so time consuming that it's eating up your day, but I would compound. And then also, so say, let's see here. If you have roughly $10,000 to $25,000, so you've got a good chunk of money. That is a lot of money.
So Baby Punch, real quick. So would you
Yeah.
say if you had anything less than $10,000, you would just be shooting to like maximize that amount in the Crystalvale Gardens by getting as much locked crystal as you can?
So $10,000 is quite a bit of money, and a lot of people might not be able to go too long without that pulling it back into their bank account. So what I would recommend, if you are looking to invest long term and you want to capitalize on as much crystal as you can, I would compound to a point where you feel comfortable letting it sit and ride and accumulating as much crystal as you can. Because so how crystal works, if it's going to behave just like jewel, it in the mining professions, you've got to maximize your mining rewards. You need to have 20,000 locked crystal. And I'm assuming it's going to be the exact same it is in Serendale, because that's how it is with Jewel. As soon as you hit that 20,000, then you have capped out. You are mining the most rewards that you can. So what my strategy is, and what I would recommend is, again, not financial advice, just compound that. Try to get to that 20,000 if you can, or just as much as you can. I would compound at the beginning, unless you have a big bag, say, 10,000 to 25,000, then your strategy might change a little. Absolutely, you're going to be in the gardens, you're staking. One other thing that you can consider is potentially getting into locked jewel. So there is a market out there. It's not supported by DFK, but in all things decentralized, there's going to be a market for everything that you can do. And I know Sandwich Punch wanted to give a little insert on the locked jewel. So you want to run them quickly through that real quick, Sandwich Punch?
Yeah. So there's this concept, and I want to take just one quick step back. Baby Punch mentioned it already, and we talk about it in our beginners video, so go check that as well. But this isn't the way that the garden farming works in DeFi Kingdoms. Is it's not just all like unlocked. Like as soon as you claim your rewards, you don't just get to like immediately go and flip it. The way that they've structured it is the vast majority, like if you claimed it on day one, 95% of it would be locked up for almost 2 years. So it'd be locked up for a period of a year. After that 1 year period, it starts to unlock, and then it unlocks over the course of a year. So you have this concept of like unlocked, jewel, or in this case, it will be crystal, that's going to be very important to understand. And so what you saw is like the farm started in Serendale in August of 2021, and we're now what 6-7 months into that. So a lot of people have big locked jewel balances. You cannot use locked jewel for anything. It's essentially just sitting there latent unless you mine it, which is a quest, which we go over in our beginner's guide, or you wait till it unlocks. In Serendale, that jewel can be transferred. There's a function built into the contract to help people who have like had their wallets hacked, and they can then send it to a different wallet. If their wallet gets hacked, they can say, like, at least let me get my locked jewel out so that when that starts unlocking, I can capitalize on that. But what that has done is it's created a market, an aftermarket, where people sell their locked jewel. The DeFi Kingdoms team does not endorse this, and they do not support it, and it will eventually be shut down. I think there was a proposal voted on by the community, and there will be changes made to the contract where that won't even be possible eventually. In the meantime, there are third-party markets that allow you to do so. You can connect your wallet to them. We do not endorse them, but we just want to let you know it's out there. The most popular is DFK.market. I'm just showing you this here, what's out there. Be very careful, people. I mean, again, like you can really get burned if you're not careful, but this provides a way for essentially no need to have an escrow agent if that's something you wanted to look into. And the locked jewel generally trades at a much smaller ratio compared to the current price. Current price is what right now, Baby Punch? It's like $8 something.
Yeah, 808. So
Wow,
that feels really
awesome.
good.
So yeah, I mean, you're seeing locked jewel trade at like 2 something, depending on the size of the lot. So that's out there. Again, not supported, not endorsed, but I mean, it's something out there. This is a decentralized world. If this is also, I see this as an opportunity for some people who feel they maybe missed the early train on DeFi Kingdoms and the Harmony Gardens to maybe pick up a big bag of jewel. So that's out there. And again, I cannot emphasize enough how much the team does not support this. So, you could get completely rugged on the website. Like these contracts aren't like, I'm not sure if they're even audited. So just be careful, but they have transacted $17 million worth. So that's there. I did want to mention one more thing, Baby Punch. You mentioned that the locked jewel threshold for mining profession quests is 20,000 jewel.
Yep.
We don't know what it will be for mining in Crystalvale, but because crystal is essentially 25% of the supply of jewel, I could see that being
significantly
5,000 instead of 20,000. I don't know, but that's just one clarification I want to make.
Yeah.
Total supply of jewel is 500 million. Total supply of crystal is 125 million.
Yep. No, that's a good catch. Actually, I didn't consider that. So yeah, it might be a much lower threshold. And that's really to maximize if you had 6 miners, that's maximizing that locked jewel mining. So if you have less than that, then you won't need as many miners. So yeah, and then if you have also if you're in that 10 to 25K range, you would definitely consider picking up some heroes right now. The jewel price for heroes is at an all-time low. For dollar amount, it might not be at the all-time low, just because jewel price is going up. But for the jewel price, it is at an all-time low. I mean, was that 30 jewel for a floor hero? So it is a good time, and it might be the best opportunity we have prior to Crystalvale launching to snag some floor heroes. So if you wanted to go that route, maybe some profession heroes, maybe some combat heroes, I would recommend, maybe getting some of those. And then if you're a bigger wallet, absolutely grab some heroes. You're still in the gardens. You're still questing. You're not questing. You're still farming in the gardens. And then there's options for Gen 0 heroes. They're super, super lucrative. They have high value. Yeah, let's see. So what the floor is, you're showing there 2,700 jewel for a floor Gen 0. And we maybe had touched on this prior, but the advantage that Gen Zeros have over any other hero is they have unlimited summoning. So summoning is super profitable. It's how the market, it's how you fill the hero market out there, and you need heroes to really play this game. So you need to be able to quest, and you need to be able to have heroes to do PvP. So they're super valuable, and they can summon unlimited, where other heroes are capped, and the price to summon actually will go up over time as you summon with those. So there's a big value to these. If you have a lot of money, that is a consideration to maybe get into some of those Gen
Hey,
Zeros.
real quick, I just wanted to highlight one thing. So Baby Punch noted the floor price of a Gen Zero right now is 2,700 Joule. We saw these going, and again, I'm taking a step back, and we're not really looking at we're not necessarily comparing it to straight up US dollars, because it's all relative, right? Our Joule, like that we receive from the gardens when we provide liquidity, and our Joule that we receive from our mining quests and our gardening quests, those don't change when the price of Joule changes. Like if Joule's $20, I get the exact same amount of Joule, all other things remaining constant, that I would if Joule was $3. So I like to look at Joule prices relative to Joule, but there's always going to be this element with hero prices of it being relative to US dollar as well. So, when we say they're at like an all-time low, we're talking about in terms of Joule, but Joule is twice as high as it was a week ago, but the price didn't cut in half by 50%. So like US dollar wise, maybe not, but I mean, guys, 30 Joule is really low. When the
Yeah.
Wishing Well, which was the very first quest, came out, what were we selling like the lowest trash for? Like I think it was like 180 to 200 Joule.
Yeah,
It
like
was
barely under 200
crazy.
Joule.
It was crazy. So,
I think the
anyways,
floor for Gen Zeros at one point was like
it's
8,
like
9,
9,000.
10,000
Yeah.
Joule. It was
And that was some of that
crazy.
was like when Joule was like $7-8 too.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that goes. So that's an option for anyone who's looking to get into some heroes, and you've got a lot of money that you're wanting to invest into DeFi Kingdoms. Gen Zero is definitely something to consider. Also, Sandwich Punch already addressed buying the locked balance for Joule, so that's always an option. And if you've missed out on that, then that's something to consider. And then a few other things that you can kind of be looking for. So when you're buying a hero, things you want to like think about when you're buying a hero is, are you trying to optimize your yields in questing? Are you planning to have a big locked balance? So if you plan on investing heavy at the beginning, and you plan on compounding, and you're going to have a big locked balance, then that'll affect your decision. Maybe you're looking at miners. You want to get a good bunch of miners. Are you gearing towards combat? Do you want higher professional level questers? And then, so just keep in mind though, guys, it takes a long time to level up heroes. So when you're looking at heroes in the tavern, like, do not underestimate the level of the hero, because that represents a big chunk of time. For example, I mean, a level 5 hero, when we first started questing, I think, let's see, when did we first get quests? So was it in
It was like mid Q4, I think.
mid Q4? Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
been several months, and I've got level 5s and level 6 heroes. So this represents a lot of time. Do not undervalue the time that is taken to level up these heroes, and the market right now is just not capturing that value very well. So yeah, you can see a level 7 priest for 58 Joule is absolutely crazy to me. I mean, flip that card over. Let's see what that profession is in the score. So almost a 17.4 forging. Like, that is really, really good. So our strategy is, we have our questing heroes, we have our profession heroes, and if we're gonna add to those heroes, then we need to that we're looking at the floor. We're looking for levels. We're looking for skill level, and we're just buying off the floor. So, and then if you're going towards combat, Sandwich Punch, you want to take over real quick? I've got some kids running down here. I'm going to quickly
Yeah, no worries
for them. So run them through the combat heroes.
Yep. All right, guys. So again, let's take a quick step back. So you can buy heroes right now. Like we talked about in our beginner's guide, how to buy heroes. Tavern's the way to do it. There are different things you can focus on. For example, I've got some guys who I have leveled up as profession questers, which means they're common heroes. I am not planning to to be in combat with them. Whereas I have some high rarity heroes, which those will be my guys that I'm planning to they're going to be my PvP guys. So I just changed my filter here to rares and mythics. I've spent a reckless amount of my time and money on these, so hopefully it all pans out. But this guy is going to be a beast in combat. 29 strength, 24 vitality. He has a high guarding score, but that's because the only way to level him up right now is through profession quests. So but I am not leveling him up for gardening. And we'll get into leveling up. We'll get into how you should be leveling up depending on whether it's a profession quest or a combat person. But there's different things you can focus on, right? So let me give you an example. I have an archer who I have specifically leveled up just for profession questing. And again, we'll get into this a lot more in the profession quest part or leveling up part, but I am stacking dexterity, intelligence, and luck on this hero because I plan to keep this archer doing foraging quests forever. And where does that come from? Why am I saying why those two? Let me just give you guys a quick reminder on this spreadsheet, or sorry, it's a chart.
I've got it here.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe you want to pull it up real fast.
Yep.
Oh, that I was thinking the let me just go to docs real quick. I was thinking of these profession, which profession.
Oh, got it.
Important. So you go here, you go to professions. So every profession has 2 stats that give it extra bonuses. Go back to our beginner's guide if you don't know what I'm talking about, but mining is strength and endurance. And so the archer I just gave you an example of is dexterity and intelligence. Those are the 2 main ones. So the more dexterity and intelligence you have, the better chances you get to get better foraging rewards. I think Baby Punch has actually got a good here. So this shows the 4 professions and which ones are great, which ones are good classes for those professions based on their stat growths. We won't get too much into stat growths here because Baby Punch is going to cover that a little bit more when we talk about leveling. But you can see here that every profession has 2 stats that are important to it, and then luck impacts them all in a small way. And so that's why I leveled up with my archer: dexterity, intelligence, and luck. So that would be the profession route. But and then I mentioned, big step away real quick, the combat stuff, you're going to be focusing on different things like the stats that are their highest growth stats. And again, I think that will probably fit best under the discussion about leveling our heroes. But yeah, I'll turn it back over to you, Baby Punch, if there's anything else you wanted to say specifically.
Yeah, I just wanted to show a quick tool here. So I wanted to pull up one that we use a lot. Let's see here. Okay. Oh, I've got it here. So one tool that we use when looking to buy heroes is you can come over to, let's see, am I sharing here? Okay, yep,
Yeah.
I'm good. So you can come over, you can search if you're looking and so this website is Adventures in DFK. So this is a website that I think you have to subscribe to. There's a small monthly subscription to, but it's really well laid out. It's really good. You can set alerts and get, you can specify alerts in the tavern if you're looking for a certain miner um, at a certain price level. You can set those alerts, and then you'll receive those, and you can go in and quickly grab them before they get snatched up by someone else. So here is a tool that we often use when we're looking to buy. You can come to this hero data. You can punch in a hero ID. It'll show you. So let's see. Here's one of my doing. So let's just do this. We'll show this real quick. So it'll show you everything about it. It'll show you the level, the rarity. Most importantly, it'll show you right down here. So we'll go to some genetics. And this is a bag of worms all in itself. But yeah, maybe
We can talk
address
about
this.
that in the summoning section.
Okay,
Here.
yeah, we'll talk about this in the summoning, but this is a really good tool. You'll see some active abilities, passive abilities. You'll see some primary subclass. You'll see the profession. So this is a really good tool when you're looking to get into buying. Use that. There's also let's pull
You
up
want to
here.
show them? Yeah, there's so many cool tools, guys, for buying heroes. Because obviously you have the tavern in game and the filters, and those are helpful. But sometimes you want to see more aggregated data. So maybe do you want to show them like DFK tavern and
Yeah.
maybe DFK tavern?
Yep. Let's here's DFK Tavern. So we'll go to DFK Tavern right here. So this site you can see auction history. So whether you're buying or selling, you can look and go and see exactly what heroes have gone for. You can see live auction. So this is real time. If you're looking for, if you want a miner and you don't care much, you can specify the genes, the R1 genes, you can specify the rarity, generation. But if you're looking for, just a miner, let's see here. How do I search? Where's the search function on this website here?
I actually don't use this one too much. This is a really popular community one. I don't use that specific one, but there's this one's cool. It's got the active, it's got the history. This is, I think, a lot of people use this. If you take one step back, Baby Punch, for the hero rankings. So they've given they do some rankings based off of professions. Like, how good is this guy at a specific profession versus how good might this person be at PvP and summoning. And so they have these algorithms they've made where they're like, hey, this is what we think this hero would be like top 1% of heroes for PvP, top 1% of archers for PvP. So kind of cool. You can type in a hero ID. So maybe put in your hero there. Yeah. So that chart reminds me of Dota. Anyways, that's cool. And you want to walk up
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, you show them the DFK tavern, because the tavern, there's different ways to check prices, right? One of the most common ways is you just go to the tavern in game. For example, you just go to the tavern in game. You say, hey, what is the floor price of a legendary archer? And you can hit that, and you can be like, okay, the lowest price one is 120. But I mean, 120 it's not selling right now. So so what has actually sold? And DFK Tavern is actually a really good one. I'm gonna send it back over to your screen.
Yeah, let's see here. So
maybe show us that same filter here, legendary archer.
So let's see. So legendary archer, we're not going to care about generations. We're not going to care about summons.
And I think you can just click on legendary down in that key to the
right here.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, that ticks it off. So if you uncheck the other ones.
Okay. So Legendary Archer right here has sold a common.
It doesn't. That
Gorge.
filter doesn't
There's no
filter
way.
those results. Just go up. Just look at that one
Okay.
bullet or the one dot.
Right there. So 250 Joule.
Okay, so yeah, I mean that, and then you just compare like, okay, so why did that one sell for 250 versus the one that's 120? I'm comparing, that one's level 6. The one that's floor of 120 is level 1. So it allows you to at least like do comps, right? Like if you ever like bought a house and you're like, okay, why is this house versus price that way? It's like, okay, well that one's bigger. This one has a garage. Like, so you can do all these comparisons to be like, what are heroes actually selling for versus what they're listed for, and maybe what are the differences that's driving that price, and that can help you get a good sense. And the more and more you do that, you're going to start to get a really good sense of like what heroes are worth. And one other one, and I could share this one, is that I really like, called dfking.co, and there's a bunch, guys. There's a bunch of resources, and we're gonna just briefly touch on them for hero purchasing, but then we can link them all so that you have them.
Yeah.
One thing I look for a lot is I look for recessive genes, and I'm not going to get into that right now, but like if I want to be like, okay, D recessive gene and R1 recessive gene, which I'll explain more to you later, I search for it. This is a great tool to search for recessive genes, and this is dfking.co. Another one that's cool is called DFK Analytics. I'm going to share that one as well. This one, it's overwhelming. You look at it and you're like, holy crap. But it's really a lot of just the same filters that are in the in-game tavern. One cool thing about DFK Analytics is that it will allow you to filter by Perilous Journey Survivor. And what that means is there was a one-time event that happened earlier this month. You could send your heroes on this quest, and the lore behind it was they're trying to discover Crystalvale. And it was low, depending on how rare your hero was, how high level, they had a chance of survival. And if they didn't make it, they got burned. If they did make it, they got a Perilous Journey badge. You can see that, I think, on some of my heroes here. So like, see that PJ badge right there? And the cool thing about Perilous Journey is they got 15 extra stats. They got to give +5 to 3 different stats. And so they're just inherently going to be stronger heroes. So this DFK Analytics, pretty cool because it allows you to search that, whereas that feature is not in the tavern yet. It'll be added as a feature, I'm sure, where you can like click a box and be like, show me all. Then the last one I wanted to just really quickly show is DeFi Toy. This is another just to show you like, hey, what's currently listed. This one's cool because it's pretty like easy layout, I think, but same thing. I can say I want Perilous Journey Survivors. So these last two, DFK Analytics and DeFi Toy, DFK.DeFi Toy, these are the only two I know of right now that really give you the survivor. And then you can say sell and you select all these filters. There's a lot. It's doing a lot of indexing here, but eventually it'll pop up all the heroes and show you what's available currently on the market. And you can also do what's sold. So really helpful.
That's cool. I've never used this particular site before, so
I was hoping it would load. It usually takes a little while to load, but once it does, it's cool. It shows the full card, it shows the front and the back, and shows current listings and historical listings. So pretty good resource. We'll include links to all these. We aren't affiliated with any of these. These are just some of the tools that we're using. So hopefully they can be helpful for you as you're trying to figure out like, hey, what hero should I buy? What's good? What's not good?
So assuming you want to pick up some heroes and assuming buying or purchasing is not the route you want to take, your alternative is summoning. So we have done several rounds of summoning before, and I'm going to let Sandwich Punch kind of run us through some summoning strategies and just things to really consider. So you have to be really careful with summoning because it can be profitable, but it can be very, very bad. I mean, you can use a lot of money. If you don't know what you're doing and you're not sure how to pair up heroes, then it can be bad. You can lose money out your ears. So run
Yeah.
us through that. How do we do this carefully? How do we make sure that we're going to be profitable and get the right
Sure.
heroes?
So we're gonna assume that you've watched our previous video, which is the beginner's guide, and it explains a lot of the basics. Like you have to own at least one of the heroes that you're summoning with. You know, there's just a certain amount of knowledge we have to assume you've read about or watched about, so that we can focus on some of the more advanced tips here. So let's get into some of those. And these are super important. And as we go through it, I am going to bring up an article that I wrote about breaking down a hero card. I mentioned this a lot in our last video, but it's a big repository of information for you. Definitely check it out. But there's some stuff you just have to know about how summoning works. So first things first, you go to a summoning portal, you're going to add a hero, and you're like, okay, well, what am I even looking at here? So let's just go into some of the basics here. And I'm going to go back to this article because I kind of list like, here's high level 10 things you just got to understand about how summoning works. So here they are. One of them is every time you summon, the numerator, i.e. the summons remaining, goes down. What the heck does that even mean? You'll see here, this says summons 10 out of 10 remaining. Well, this says summons 6 out of 10 remaining. That's because this priest has summoned 4 times. Every time you summon, that numerator goes down. Okay. The higher the generation of the hero equals the higher cost to summon with that hero. What is the generation? We talk about this and we break it down in the article and in our beginner's guide. But like Gen 0, Gen 1, I think later I'm going to get into later generations, Gen 4s. So the generation is clearly laid out on the card, but what does that mean? Well, the higher the generation, the higher the cost to summon with it. Check out this chart. Let's see if I can zoom in on this a little bit. Actually, I think all this, yeah. So if you see here, it shows you the cost based off of how many summons. So every time you summon, the cost goes up a little bit every single time. A Gen 0, the cost started at 6. The very first summon, you had 2 Gen 0s, Gen 01 and Gen 02. Each of them you had to pay 6 jewels, so it cost 12 jewel to summon a hero. That eventually got to the point where you hit 12, you've summoned 12 times, and it capped out at 30. So now going forward, every single Gen 0, unless they've been living under a rock and haven't been summoning, it costs them 30 per hero each time. So 60 jewel just to summon a Gen 1 hero. Gen 1s start at 16, Gen 2 start at 26, Gen 3 start at 36. So you see the pattern here, it goes up by 10 every single generation. Every single generation you go up, the base cost goes up by 10. And then every summon after that goes up by 2. So I give an example here. This archer right here has 4 out of 10. So how much would it cost to summon with that? Well, it's a Gen 1. So you look at this Gen 1 row, started at 16. It's summoned 6 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, wow. It started at 16 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The next one's going to cost 30 jewel because the last one was 28 jewel. So the next one will be 30. So that's how that works. It gets very expensive to summon with later heroes. Look at this Gen 4 Paladin. If I wanted to summon with that, it's already summoned twice. It's 50 jewel just for the Paladin. Then I have to have another hero to pair it with. And that's going to be, at least 16 jewel if it's a Gen 1. If it's another Gen 5, you're looking at another 50 jewel. That's 100 jewel to summon. You are immediately going to be at a loss position. So very high level rule of thumb, summon with the lowest generation possible, summon with the highest summons remaining possible to keep costs down. All right. Try to get through these again a little quicker, but we're going to link this article. These are really, you got to understand these. This is like the Bible of like how summoning works. Not necessarily my article, but just these bullets. So higher generation heroes can't summon as many times. Every time you go up a generation, the max number of summons goes down. Let's look at this guy. So this one is 3 out of 3 right here. You see that? it's like, well, why was this one 10 out of 10? Well, what happens is every time you go up a generation, the maximum number of summons goes down. Also, the number of summons possible is always going to be one less than the lowest between the two parents. I know that's like, let's just like take a look at this, what that means. So the number of summons a hero have will always be one less than sorry, you look at the two parents. Let's say, I actually have an example right here. Two parents, one has 9 summons remaining, the other has 4 summons remaining. So the formula is here. You take the lesser of the two. So the lesser is this one with 4, and you minus 1. So the child is going to come out with 3 summons. Super important to understand that, guys, because a hero with 3 out of 3 is worth way less than 10 out of 10. Let's see, a couple other things. The generation will always be one greater than the greater of the two parents. So summoning, it's kind of like the inverse of summons remaining. So like, let's say you have a Gen 4 and a Gen 5. They pair together and they summon a hero. It's going to be a Gen 6, one higher than the greater of the two. And then a couple like ground rules you got to understand. A child cannot summon with any of its two parents. So you can't like summon a hero. Like say you have just 2 heroes and you use them to summon a new one. You're like, sweet, now I have 3. I'm going to use that one I just summoned to pair with one of my 2 parents. Doesn't work like that. You know, genetics, I'm not going to get into like human genetics here, but like you just can't do that. All right. It's just part of the smart contract. Can't do it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty
Also,
common
children
in a lot
cannot
of
summon
games.
with siblings. What was that?
I said I think that's pretty common in a lot of these games.
Yeah. And then let's see. Every time you summon, the cost goes up by 2 jewel. I already covered that. Every time you summon, when you make a child and it kicks out a hero, they have 24-hour cooldown where you can't summon with them again until that 24-hour cooldown. And also, every time you summon, they have a summoning sickness. So you can't just like pump them out constantly. So as soon as the child comes into the world, kind of a weird way to say that, 24 hours, can't summon with them. You can go quest with them, but let's say the 24 hours pass, you're like, sweet, now I can go summon. You go do your first summon with it. The amount of time you have to wait goes between the next summon. It's not going to be 24 hours, just like when you had the summoning sickness, but it goes up based off of the generation they are and how many times they've already summoned. Higher generation, more times they've summoned, just equals a longer waiting period. So I know that was a lot. Wanted to just like kind of dip your toes into it. Those things are super important to understand. Like you do not want to go out and use some of these tools that we just mentioned and just like willy-nilly buy heroes if you're like, I want to summon, like I want to pull a mythic, I want to hit this awesome rare card without understanding those basics. Got to understand them if you want to summon. We'll include the link to this article in the video along with some other really helpful things. Last thing before we move on, and we want to show you some really cool tools that you can use in summoning, is there are articles out there, especially by Mr. Zipper. Anybody that's on Harmony will be very familiar with Mr. Zipper. He's the GOAT. For people on Avalanche who haven't heard of him, he's got some really awesome articles, and 2 of them are on hero genetics. And there's this concept of recessive genes, whereas like if you have a warrior and you breed them together, it's not always going to kick out a warrior because everyone has some recessive genes. Baby Punch, do you have like that DFK Adventures still?
Yes.
Could you pull that up real quick?
Yep.
Let's show them what I'm talking about here. All right, so if you scroll down, so like look at this genetics field, guys. There's the dominant, recessive, recessive 2, and recessive 3. I hesitate to get too in depth on this because we could just have a whole video on this, but just keep it in mind that the dominant gene is the most important. That is the one that will evidence itself for that specific hero most often. Recessive 1 is the next strongest. Recessive 2 is weaker, and recessive 3 is almost non-existent, but it's there. So essentially, you need to be keeping these things in mind as you summon, because you might be like, sweet, I'm going to pair 2 things together, a warrior and a knight. And the reason why someone would do that is because there's this, you can pair certain pairs together and they'll create advanced classes.
I'll go
This
to right
chart right here, check. Oh yeah, Baby Punch has got it. So look at that chart. Those are advanced classes. So if you pair Warrior and Knight, it has a chance to make a Paladin. But what happens is those chances get screwed up with you if you have like really, unaligned recessive genes. And so the recessive genes end up being really important, and it's actually pretty complicated, but that's why there's some awesome tools to help people figure it out. So Baby Punch, maybe let's like show them how that works with like HeroBot in Discord, and then maybe DFK Professions.
Here, I've got it pulled up in DFK Professions. We'll go here first. And honestly, I know this is all like really familiar to us, but for someone who's just coming in, this could literally be a college course. I feel like we are cramming in 4 months of genetics and DFK knowledge, and so it can be really overwhelming. Make sure you're watching his guides, Sandwich Punch's guides. Refer to those if you're getting into summoning. This is why we say it's really complicated. You can screw it up royally if you're not careful and you don't know what you're doing. But this is one tool that you can use. So give me 2 hero IDs.
Yeah, put in my Archer Thief combo. So archers, if you go back to that chart, Baby Punch, an archer and a thief, those have a chance to make a Dark Knight. Like you cannot make a Dark Knight with any other combination of heroes. You could have like a pirate and a monk that had recessive archer and thief genes, but the chance of those recessives both coming out on top, mixing together and making the Dark Knight is very rare. So archer and thief is the combo here. Here are an archer and a thief that I have. Let's plug them into the calculator and see what we get. So 243 and 535.
Let's try that again. 243, 535. Okay, there we go. So run us through this, because this is important.
So in a perfect world where, let's say your dominant, your R1, R2, and R3 genes were all archer. And for the other here, your dominant, your R1, R2, and R3 were all thief. So like perfect genes, which I don't even know if those exist. There might be like one hero out of like the 170 out there. You would have a 25% chance for a Dark Knight. This guy has a 21.97%. So that's because these two heroes have aligned their dominant and R1 genes, so the two strongest genes that for their class, they're aligned. So if you go back up real quick, I also have a 35% chance to come out with a thief, a 38% chance for an archer, a 0.78% chance wizard. You're like, well, what the heck? Where does that come from? That's because one of these heroes has a recessive wizard gene. Same with the pirate, 3.13%. So those like mess things up. Let's assume you had no aligned recessive and dominant genes. Like let's just say it was like the archer. So obviously his dominant gene is archer. Let's say his 3 recessive class genes were like pirate, monk, warrior, and then the thief was obviously a dominant thief, but then his recessive genes were 3, wizard, priest, knight.
Which is most heroes, to be honest.
Their chance, the way that the math works out, their chance to make a Dark Knight would be like 14 point, like high, it'd be like 15% essentially. So you're actually getting a huge buff by having the aligned dominant and R1 gene. And it's now at a 22% rather than a 15%. So it's almost a 50% increase. It's still just 22%. But when you're talking about like you're spending real life money to like pull cards, and the difference between just getting another archer, a thief, and a Dark Knight could be like a 3 to 4x multiple. These numbers matter. So you got to understand them. And at least now you can target these. I would say if you're trying to shoot for advanced classes and you're like, you know what, I want to summon Dark Knights and stuff. I'm not saying you have to get aligned D and R1 genes, because people now understand that, and it is more expensive. But we're gonna link Mr. Zipper's article. Please go and read it. I would just feel terrible if you jumped into trying to summon advanced classes without at least understanding that, because we're all like putting real life money on this, and the more knowledge you have, the more power you have. So go learn these things, because there is a lot of money to be made if you can hit the right summons. It's obviously a lot of RNG, but you can increase your odds. And why would you not at least try to increase your odds if it's just a matter of learning a little bit about it?
So I'm going to quickly share my Discord here.
So that is one tool. DFK Professions is one tool to check recessive genes and like plug it into a calculator and say, hey, what's going to pop out here? Here is HeroBot. Let me know when you get to the bot command channel. You hear? All right.
Yep.
So 235 and 243 and 535.
So, okay, so in this bot command, you can come in here. They have a bunch of different commands. You can hit / and see a bunch. So if you wanted to see what two heroes, just as we did on that DFK profession, you can hit /match, and then you can put in, so it was what was it?
243 and 535.
535. And it'll pump out these same results. So you can see here, Dark Knight, 21.97% chance to summon. You can see his Archer and Thief still has a higher chance of getting an Archer and Thief. So this is if you can roll for the advanced class, like, you're really lucky. So if you hit that roll, it's lucky because the odds are not in your favor to hit these. And one thing that we didn't really touch on, but the same genetics are for professions as well. So and subclass.
It's every single, other than rarity, every single thing on the card
has just recessive genes.
Your profession, your stat gene, the way you look, your cosmetics. There's these abilities that aren't shown on the card yet, that don't have utility yet. That it's all the same dominant and 3 recessive gene structure.
So things that I would say, if we needed to be hyper-focused, things to really consider are your primary class. Don't worry about the subclass for now. Worry about the primary class. Worry about the profession if you're trying to summon a particular profession. And then also, which is not relevant right now, but it will be relevant later, are your passive and active abilities. So in those, you can also get rolls on. Those have recessive genes and dominant genes, so you can get mutations in those as well.
Yeah, well, man, as we
There's so
have
much.
gone through this, I just realized like summoning is so complex. There's so much to learn. So maybe we'll have like a whole separate guide again to just deep dive again. But this should give you what you need. If for example, I looked into Crabot and I was just like, well, I don't even know what's going on. Like it was complicated. And DeFi Kingdoms makes sense to me because I've been in it since day one and I've been super invested in it. But I get that it's super complicated and overwhelming for people who don't. But if you take these tips we've given you, you should have a good sense now. Like if you go look at the market and be like, all right, what am I looking at? You now know, what do these different numbers on the card mean and how is that going to impact my summoning? Let me just recap, make sure if there's anything else on the summoning front. I will say one last thing. Rarity. Rarity is super important for cards because it impacts
Got it here.
Yes, thank you. I'll flip over to your screen here just a minute.
Okay.
There are 5 rarities: common, uncommon, rare, legendary, mythic. And the nice thing about rarities is every 5 levels they gain, they just get bonus stats. So here's a chart. This chart shows you the difference between a level 100 mythic and a level 100 common, assuming you use the same stats level up. So like you can see the difference here is pretty big between a common and a mythic. And that's going to make a big difference when it comes to combat. So That's why rarity matters. Now let's talk about how the rarity of the two parents impacts the summon. So look at this chart here. This shows you that when you have higher rarity parents, you have a higher chance to get higher rarity children. So this chart, let me just walk you through it. So 2 commons at the top. If you summon with 2 commons, the chance of you getting another common is 58.3%. Very high. The chance of you getting a mythic is 0.2%, almost non-existent. What happens if you use 2 mythics? Well, now your chance, so that's the highest rarity, right? The chance of getting a common has now gone from 58 down to 40%. Huge decrease. It's still very high though. You can see that RNG is still going to play a huge factor in summoning. So when you hit a mythic, it is a big deal. It is also worth a lot of money. But not, I mean, you can at least make some decisions here. If you're like, hey, I want to hit these higher rarities, like, and you can do some cost analysis, like, okay, well, 2 commons would cost me this much, 2 mythics would cost me this much to summon with, and you can do some cost benefit analysis of like, is it worth it for me to shoot for higher rarities to hopefully get higher rarity children? And this chart is kind of how it works. And that I think is probably the last big key that we needed to give you guys to get at least started in learning up and reading some of these articles on summoning and actually understanding what's going on. So.
Yeah, it's super complicated, and honestly, it could be a college course on summoning and DeFi Kingdoms. So we wanted to get into one other quick aspect of the game, and that was leveling up. So I wanted to show here. So each hero has, so everyone has the same stats. Everyone has the same stats, but they all have different chances to get a successful roll on these stats. So let's just let's look at a warrior real quick. So warrior, you can see that the highest chance of success that it has for stats is in strength, 75% chance, dexterity, 70% chance, and then vitality and endurance have a 65% chance. So this is where that chart comes into play. I'm just going to quickly pull it up right here. So it says, why are warriors and knights and dark knights so good at mining is because they have a high chance of getting a successful roll in strength and endurance. So paladin, the highest ranked miner in the profession. So let's just look at a paladin here. Let me find paladin and we'll just look at him real quick. So he's got an 80% chance to get a successful roll in strength and an 80% chance to get a successful roll in endurance. So this is why paladins are so good at mining because they have a really high chance. And so when you go to level your hero, you want to really reference these guides. And we can have a link to this Google Doc. This is one that DeFi Kingdoms put out to give us a breakdown of each hero and how likely they are to get a successful roll and their primary stats. So when you go to level, you just need really to decide, am I leveling this hero to be a profession hero, one that's going to be at the fishing pond or in the gardens or in the mines, or am I leveling this hero to be a combat geared hero? Because they will, and we advise to level them differently. So for example, Sandwich Punch gave us an example of an archer. So I'm going to reference back to this. So archers right here, we can see they are good forgers because they have high dex and high intelligence. And so when we go back to look at an archer,
high dex and high intelligence roll rates.
Roll rates, yep, exactly. So
and relatively speaking.
Yeah, that's relative because when we go to look at archers, you can see they have high roll rates and dexterity, but their intelligence is only 40%. So if you've got a common hero that you don't think is going to be good at at combat, and you want to just keep him as a questing hero and say he's got a profession skill of forging, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be leveling your dexterity and you're going to be leveling intelligence right here, 40%. Say you have a different archer and he's high rarity and you think he could be good in combat, you're going to level that differently. Obviously, dexterity happens to be the exact same stat that's good in combat. And next, you've got endurance, and then strength are the top three. And then you've got agility and vitality next. So, and the reason why I say this is, I believe it was Hubert kind of gave us the tooltip of, for combat, just assume that their stats with their highest roll rates are going to be the most valuable in
For their
combat.
combat. Yep.
Yeah.
So I actually have a hero to level up if we want to walk through that real quick.
Yeah, run us through that and maybe we can
so
look
in
at
DeFi
the
Kingdoms,
decision process.
The level up zone is called the meditation circle. So right here, I'm going to go to meditation circle. You can track your hero's experience. It's on the bar. It's this blue bar on the bottom of the card. And so this guy is ready to level up. So he's got a full bar of experience. Let's go through what I'm going to level him up for. So currently, I have obviously focused a lot on strength, vitality, endurance. Do you want to pull up the knight chart?
Yep. Right there.
All right. So the reason why I've done that is this guy is a fisher. So my guy is a fisher. And fishing, if you look back at those charts, the two stats that benefit fishing are agility and luck. So if I look back at this chart that Baby Punch has open, look at my luck and agility rules, 35 and 45. Knights are terrible fishers. They're not good at fishing based off of their stats. I've still been sending this guy fishing because there's a lot of reasons why it still makes sense for him to fish in the meantime. But the reality is once other quests come out and profession quests are not the only quests we can do, I'm not even going to be doing profession quests with this guy. He's going to be doing PvE and PvP, and I won't really care about his fishing. Like, I won't really care that agility and luck don't align with his green fishing bonus, which allows him to, fish more often and get better rewards. In the meantime, yeah, I'm going to fish, and sure, my agility and luck don't align with it, but I don't really care. So what I'm doing is I'm going to keep fishing. It's the fastest way to level him up because he can do fishing quests more often than if he did foraging or gardening or mining because he has that green gene. But I'm not spending my stats to level up on the fishing stuff. I'm going for his 3 highest stats for combat, which are strength, vitality, and endurance. So the way this works is you get a couple bonuses, and then there's 2 rolls, or I guess 3 rolls that happen. I'll walk you through it all once we do the success screen, but there's one thing where you just get to choose. This is like, it is a flat +1. You will always get +1. So I'm going to say strength. I'm just going to go with strength. Then you get 2 others, which are called Guy's Blessings. And these are on top of these normal roll rates here that are, oh wow, I'm not even sharing my screen. These are on top of the normal roll rates that are showing on that screen that Baby Punch has open. And actually, I'll probably just pull it up on my screen too to flip quickly between them. So, and then I'm going to go Vitality Endurance. What these 2 second ones are is a plus 50% bonus. So let's begin the level up. I have to pay 3 runes to level him up, 3 Schwass runes and 0.5 jewel because he's level 5. It goes up by 0.1 jewel every time they level up. So
Schwass runes are item drops that you can get when questing.
From questing. Yep. You can also go to the marketplace and buy them if you don't have any, but I'd say by the time you've earned enough experience to level a guy up, you've probably at least earned 1 reward from questing. There'll be a little cooldown timer, and then I can complete the ritual, and then you will get to see the results of the level up. And we can walk through like how it works, because it's important to understand how these numbers play into, and then these secondary stat numbers play into it. So
yeah,
I can complete this ritual. So again, I'm focusing this guy's stat level ups based on combat, which are the 3 highest stats, 3 highest growth stats for him. So this is a pretty good level up.
Nice.
So there's 3 columns here. Let me walk you through how that works real quick. And Baby Punch, feel free to chime in if I miss anything here. But what the system will do is it's gonna roll once. It's gonna do a primary roll for every single stat. So it's gonna say, okay, strength. Does he get a +1 on his primary roll? How does it know? It'll say, oh, well, it has a 70% chance. It does a roll 70% of the time, I'm going to get +1 there. Then it says, okay, Dex, on your primary roll, did you get +1? You go back, well, it has a 55% chance. Looks like I got lucky there. And then it goes through every single stat. Boom, 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 boom. I mean, I got wisdom. I got a +1 on wisdom, which was a 25% chance. So that was lucky. So this is the primary, if you see that header right there, these are the primary growth rates. And then it says, okay, now we're going to go based off, we're going to give you another set of rules, and we're going to go through each stat again, but we're going to base it off of secondary growth rates. So what are secondary growth rates? It's based off of your subclass. And then it's the secondary numbers for that subclass. So this is a priest subclass. So the way you can check and be like, okay, well, what was my chance to get pluses on these? Subclass, you got to remember, or the secondary is always going to be 1/4 of whatever the primary would be. So I went to the priest tab down here. So priests have a really high chance to get wisdom, intelligence, endurance, but terrible chance to get strength and dexterity. So what it did is it went through every single one of these stats for a priest and then divided it by 4 because it's the secondary stat. So these were my chances to get +1 on them. 7.5%, 7.5%, 10%, 12.5. It's really low. So you're really not getting, this is just like a little added incremental benefit. You're usually not getting much. So roll 1, roll 2, and then there's the bonus column. This was the stats that I selected on the level up screen. So I got +1 for strength. That was like the guaranteed 100%. But then you remember I selected 2 other stats, vitality and endurance. I got one of them, vitality. I didn't get endurance. How those 2 second ones work is it says, all right, you had roll 1, you had roll 2, regardless of class, I'm going to give you one more roll, a third roll for the 2 stats you selected, and it's just going to be a flat 50% chance. And so it rolled 50% on vitality. I got it. It rolled 50% on endurance. Didn't get it. So that is how leveling works. There are more guides.
Do you want to touch a little bit on the HP and MP and stamina? Just kind of show them the quick breakdown of the hero level up.
Yeah. So I'll touch stamina first. So stamina is not really too much of a formula. It's just every 2 levels, every even level, you get +1 stamina. For HP and MP, it is a formula. And if you go to here, this second tab, it's all classes HP, MP growth rates. It's a formula. It tells you. And I won't get too into the weeds on this, but essentially you have a chance to get a small, regular, or large HP increase. And you have a chance to get a small, regular, or large MP increase. And that chance for small, regular, large depends on what class you are. So obviously the knights, it makes sense. They have a highest chance to get large HP roll rates. Whereas somebody like a summoner, they only have a 20% chance to hit a large roll rate. So, I mean, let's look at what he got. He got 67. That's a lot of hit points. So that was probably this one. He got the large, which is 30 plus his vitality, which it takes account after the bonuses. So 20. So 30 plus 20 times 1.5, which would have been, geez, I should know this. 30. So it's like 60, which is 60 exactly. Boom. So it was a large HP roll, and that's why he got 60. And then you could just do the same, if you wanted to do the same for MP. But the thing that I would say is important to know is, what do they have the highest chance to get a roll for? So for example, some people have said, always level up vitality early because it's going to benefit you the most in the long term, because the HP increase is part of it is determined by vitality. But guys, like a summoner is like never hitting the large HP increase. So we don't really care that much. The vitality stacking has much less impact than it does on like a knight. So that's just something to keep in mind. What do you have anything else on leveling?
Yeah, essentially just plan out whether the hero is going to be destined for profession or for combat and make those decisions based on that. Honestly, you don't really need to study and learn about the HP growths and the MP growths. You just need to know the 3 stats that you're choosing at the very beginning. You need to know where you would like those to go. So he chose strength because he knew that that hero was going to he wanted to plan him for combat. If he was planning him for profession, he probably would have chose agility or luck. So you just need to select those. That's most important. Everything else will be calculated automatically, even if you don't know what the growth rates are. Um, the chances, those will automatically be calculated. You just need to know and plan. You need to have a basic level of understanding so that you can choose these 3. This is your action input. Everything else is passive. It'll be automatically rolled. So that's why it's important to know the stat growth, is so that you can choose these 3 and get a small edge up on maybe someone else who doesn't know and is maybe selecting them willy-nilly. So, was there any other mechanics that we wanted to cover? I know there was a few other tools we wanted to touch on for.
Yeah, let's we're getting kind of long here. Why don't we just like really quick touch on a couple other tools that are out there, and then we can just in the description, the links, we can just include a bunch of links to some other content and other content creators that might be helpful to them.
Cool. So one of my favorite tools is Kingdom Watch. And am I sharing right now? Let's see. Okay. So Kingdom Watch, you can come here. You can check out. You can put in your wallet address here. It'll show you all your heroes. You can come over here to the personal watch. You can put in your address. It'll give you a breakdown of what you have total in the gardens, dollar value. It'll show you what you have in bank. It'll show you what your hero values are. And that's kind of an assumption because it takes floor prices. So hero values is an assumption. And then you can come over to the quest watch and, so there's a lot of tabs on here. This is one of my favorite tools. If you just want to keep track of what you have and what you own and is your value going up or down. So this is a really cool tool. Let's see, is that there's VFAT tools.
Yeah, I can pop that one up.
Yeah,
here.
pop that one open and show them.
So
that's another similar
VFAT tools right here. This is really this is more for like the DeFi side. So this has nothing to do with your heroes. There's no hero utility here, but VFAT is a very popular yield farming tool, but it's kind of nice in DeFi Kingdoms because it gives you shows you all the incentivized pools, shows you how much you have in each of those pools, and then it will let you even manage those pools. Like outside of the DeFi Kingdoms interface, you could withdraw, you could unstake LP directly in VFAT. But anyways, you go to vfat.tools, you select the blockchain, and then it's like here's all the different yield farming protocols right now on Harmony. You go to DeFi Kingdoms, and then it'll pull up your wallet, and it will it'll essentially just show each incentivized pool and what the APR is on it, how much you have deposited in that, and it'll be like, do you want to claim your rewards? Do you want to unstake? It's just another way to kind of manage your overall yield farming. Kingdom Watch also will show you how much you have in each pool and what you're earning. So both of those are really helpful. Kingdom Watch, in my opinion, is way more user-friendly in the sense that it's much clearer to see. But VFAT Tools is that's the nitty-gritty, it's you can actively manage your pools in VFAT. You don't even have to be on the DeFi Kingdoms website. You could unstake, you could claim directly through VFAT. So pretty cool.
Yeah. There's a bunch of tools. We're going to put links to everything. There's a bunch of creators out there that you can follow. that'll put out guides, put out videos. So there's the Inner Grove. That's where you're currently sitting right now. We put out videos usually twice a week at least, tips and all things DeFi Kingdoms. There's Crypto with Tosh, Climb Crypto, and then there's the official DeFi Kingdoms Chaos Cast. So we'll put links to those. There's a bunch of Medium article content creators out there. Sandwich Punch obviously has his. Let's see here. So here's Sandwich Punch's. Like, just reference these. Like I said, guys, this is a college course. So know what you're doing when you're getting into here. Anything that is related to, if you have money in this game, you should spend the time to research it, because this could be life-changing money for everyone. Mr. Zipper has his articles. Albus, which we've been showing, he has all these links to different guides he's put out. He has a bunch of these chart images. So the class profession stats right here, if you're trying to plan out your professions and summoning, here's your summon combos, rarities. If you want to know what it's going to cost you if you summon with a Gen 5, you can use this, reference these. So there's a lot, especially you memorize this. Everyone should have this one very well down. Just know what are the combos. If you're trying to summon a paladin or a dark knight or a ninja or summoner, know what the basic classes combos are that have the highest chance. And then obviously the dragoon and sage and dark knight. So study these, know these, reference these as you go through. They'll all help you. Bunch of good. We'll put as many links as we can in the show notes to give everyone these resources. Bookmark them. Do what you need to have them available at your fingertips when you need them. Because we have been referenced these pages, these graphics, and the docs for months and months and months, and it really kind of just committed them to memory almost.
Yeah. It's so true. It's like we take a step back and we think like there is so much out there that I think we just assume everybody knows, but we've also been like recklessly deep in the amount of time we've spent learning all this for the last 6 months. So it can be very overwhelming. Hopefully this resource is helpful for you. Take a quick step back. Our last video, beginner's guide, was the nuts and bolts. How do you do different things? How do different things work in the game? This guide was focused on tips, tricks, and tools. So I would, if you watch this one first and you're like, wow, that was super complicated, I'm not sure I understood that, and you didn't watch the first one, go back and watch the first one, and then maybe come back and watch this one again. Hopefully these tools in the aggregate will be helpful for you. We get this is probably a little drier than our weekly podcast, but hopefully it's helpful information for you. And we will probably, do some more guides, but we kind of wanted these two big ones, especially with the launch of Crystalvale coming up, for Avalanche community members, to let them know, hey, there's a whole other world out there than just Crystalvale, and there's stuff you can be doing right now that can benefit you. And here's how you can do it. Here's some tips, tricks, and here's some tools. And then even just people in Serendale and Harmony already. Some of this might be new to them. Hopefully it was helpful for you as well.
Yeah. Honestly, there's nothing more frustrating than getting into a new project and not knowing what's going on. Like, I can't tell you how many projects I have looked at and considered investing in and was just so overwhelmed at how much was going on and didn't know how to play the game or what to do, that I just didn't invest at all. And we don't want that to be the case, because this is an opportunity. DeFi Kingdoms is making leaps and bounds ahead of competition, and they're kind of leading the pack when it comes to this. So it's not an opportunity that you really want to pass up on. And so we're trying to make it as simple when it's not simple as we can. So it's as clear as mud on how to play this game and how to properly do things. So just keep in mind, we've had lots of time and knowledge and study of all things DFK, feel free to use us as resources. I mean, hit us up in Discord, hit us up on Twitter. The community is really open and friendly, so use the Discord channels to your advantage. Reach out to people, and watch and study as many guides, videos, any content you can get on DeFi Kingdoms to just get a leg up. Because right now we suspect there's going to be a good volume of new players coming into the game. Anything you can do to give your leg up, to get a leg up on the next person who has not put in the time, will give you an advantage. So there's a lot.
Yep. Thanks for joining us, guys. It was a long video, but there's a lot of knowledge in here. Take advantage of it. Break it down into parts. We'll have a table of contents and bookmarks so you can quickly go to different sections and find what you're looking for. And thanks for joining us. And we will catch you guys on our normal weekly stream. So hope everyone is looking forward to the Crystalvale launch here in a couple of days.
Yeah, good luck, guys. This is exciting opportunities.
See ya.
Peace.